It's 13 degrees below zero in Minnesota, but the Derby Trail heats up. We look back at the Withers and the Sam F. Davis right here on the Future Book. The Future Book continues with a recap of the stakes races on the road to the Kentucky Derby this weekend. We start off at the Big A, Aqueduct, New York, and a deep and tiring track that wasn't really conducive to front runners kind of played out in the Withers Stakes. It was the co-favorite Capo Cane who actually went off the second favorite behind the winner, Risk Taking. And he set the pace, set some actually pretty aggressive fractions. Now, Capo Cane had only had one workout in the last 5 weeks, and that may have been a little bit of a telling tale down the stretch when he kind of tired at that 1 1/8 distance. Meanwhile, it was Risk Taking who looked good in the post parade, warmed up well, was getting bet on the tote board. He was anywhere between 7 to 5 and 2 to 1 most of the betting, ended up going off at 9 to 5. And Risk Taking kind of had enough speed to establish position, 4th or 5th place in mid-pack. You know, he's one of those horses that he doesn't need to lead. He's not really a deep closer. Now, he is kind of getting in mid-pack in some of these races with a little bit slower fractions, so I'm not sure what he would do. He'd probably be a little bit further back if the fractions were and the pace were to heat up a little bit. But he's the type of horse that will pass some horses. Once he kind of kicked it in and got his lane going into the turn, you pretty much knew he was going to win the race. But it did take him a while to kind of corral in Capo Cane, who took advantage of being on the front end. He opened up going into the turn. I thought it was a good ride on Capo Cane. They tried to win the race by busting it open on the turn. They opened up a big lead, and it really took Risk Taking a long time to kind of grind him down in the lane, pick up the victory. Late in the game, it was Overtook who was really being pushed hard. He got second place after really being pushed hard out of the gate to kind of show any speed at all, and he just doesn't have any speed. This Overtook, he's a conventional plotter. He just does not have the speed. Again, he'll type that'll run all day. And so the top 3 in this race ended up being Risk Taking. Buyer speed figures are in. He got an 89 for this effort. He is going to pass on the Gotham Stakes, wait for the Wood Memorial. That makes sense for trainer Chad Brown. They want to keep him at those longer distances. He picks up 10 points on the Kentucky Derby Trail. Overtook, you know, he continues to improve. I'm not sure he's ever going to be a Grade 1, Grade 2 stakes winner. Maybe he can plod along and late in some of these races. But he'll probably continue on to the Wood Memorial most likely with his connections. And then Capo Cane, they already announced they're going to cut back to the Gotham Stakes. You know, off the cutback and a little bit quicker surface, Capo Cane could be maybe a little bit live in that Gotham Stakes. And if you win that race, that's 50 points. With his other 10 from the Jerome, that could get him to the Kentucky Derby as kind of one of the speed horses on the front end. Meanwhile, we go down to Tampa Bay, another race where the morning line kind of did not dictate what the final odds were going to be. Known Agenda, who was 6 to 1 morning line, ended up going off as one of the co-favorites, the favorite in the race. Then you had Candyman Rocket, who was 8 to 1 to 10 to 1 morning line. He ended up going off at 3 to 1. And again, kind of the same thing played out here. You had a local Tampa Bay horse show some speed, set some pretty aggressive fractions, 47 change for the half. And you could see Candyman Rocket kind of just laying off that pace. He was able to get in position. Once he took the lead, he kind of got a little bit unfocused, but they came home slow, over 26 for the final quarter. The speed figure came in at an 85 for this one. A lot of people were talking about Hidden Stash. If he had straightened out down the lane, he might have won the race. He might have, but it doesn't mean he's going to be a good horse. He's just not fast enough. You know, these horses, an 89 for Risk Taking, an 85 for Candyman Rocket, they're good horses, but you know, this coming weekend, we're going to see 2 winners and maybe even a second place horse in the Risen Star and the Southwest Stakes that are just better horses than these horses. I guess the only advantage maybe a horse like Risk Taking has is he is the type that can run all day. So Candyman Rocket, an 85. I thought it was a solid effort. Bill Mott trains. Bill Mott trained the runner-up in this one, Nova Rags. Nova Rags had the length of the stretch. I think we've seen what Nova Rags is with his 4 races coming into this one, so not a lot of upside there. Probably both of them might come back for the Tampa Bay Derby. Hidden Stash probably as well. The one thing about the Hidden Stash, this was off a long layoff, so I could see him improving probably the most in the second off a layoff, and he's another one like risk-taking that seems like he will run all day, a horse like Hidden Stash. Long term, you know, Candyman Rocket could be effective at 1 1/8, not sold on him being a 1 1/4 type horse. He's probably going to be a best top miler. 1 1/16 type horse will be his best races. Meanwhile, out west, not any Kentucky Derby points, but it was heavily anticipated, the San Vincente, and it ended up being a small field, but it was the 2 Baffert horses running 1-2. Freedom Fighter had to send from the rail. He set some aggressive fractions. This track surface was playing really slow. 2 6.5 furlong races were ran in 1:19 and change on the day. The Beyer speed figure came back in 94, and I thought for Concert Tour it was a nice win. It was his second lifetime effort, going a tough 7 furlong distance on a slow surface. He had to wear down a front-running horse, and he did it without ever really changing gears in this race. He kind of had the race in command coming down the lane, and he got clear late, but he was never really asked. So on a slow surface, you know, I think some of these horses are going to improve if they go off that surface, but you also don't want too demanding of a race on a slow surface. It can kind of wear horses out, and we saw that last year. A few of those horses just never ran the same after running on extremely slow surfaces. Now, it's not as slow as it was at that point, but getting to the point where I'm not sure it's helping some of these speedier horses on the slow surface. You know, I think the Son of Street Sense is going to get better at 1 1/8. I'm not sure about him at 1 1/4. We will see. San Anita Derby, does he go to Oaklawn, you know, Sunland, wherever Bob Baffert wants to send him if he goes out of state. But I thought it was a solid effort for the winner here, Concert Tour. You know what? Where will the place horse go? Freedom Fighter. I think he's probably best going to be maybe a Pat Day Mile type of horse. Maybe down the road he could extend his scope later on in the summer, but I think at this point they're going to keep him more as a miler type horse for Freedom Fighter, the son of violence. A couple of maiden winners at Gulfstream Park. Democracy got a 75 for his win, and then Todd Pletcher also sending out Promise Keeper, who got an 80. The interesting thing there is he ran in 4th in that Candyman Rocket race in his debut, so that's shaping up as a possibility of a key race there. Prevalence had his first work back after his win a couple of weeks back at Gulfstream, so that was nice. Rombauer looks like he's going to the El Camino Real. He worked over the weekend. And then the Risen Star drew 13 horses. A couple of horses are cross-entered in the Southwest, also in an allowance race on Saturday at Fairgrounds. So we'll probably end up with a field of about 10 or 11 for that Risen Star. Bezos, the other big one, he was favored at 3-5, but the winner, Dream Shake, named after the Dream Shake by Akeem Olajuwon, he looked impressive. He ran 1:17 and change, some very fast fractions in this race. So Dream Shake immediately goes to 20-1 in the Circa odds on the Kentucky Derby futures. But that was a nice win. He came looping mood, and he made that move before the front runners started to fade. Right when Bezos was going 3 wide, quickly from behind, Dream Shake was catching them. So that was a pretty good eye-opening move for Dream Shake. We'll see if he stretches out the next time out. Kentucky Derby future wager number 3 going to be this week, and also the Risen Star, the El Camino Real, along with the Rachel Alexandra. And on the boys' side, we will see the Southwest Stakes next Monday. So that's a look at the future book.